So after 3 seasons of the GOAT, he has finally parted ways with Formula 1, as we all know he is simply too good for the sport. The main reason he was brought into Williams was of course his raw pace and talent at the wheel. Wait, you're telling me he was a pay driver?
Now we're a fucking bunch of wankers.
Apologies, yeah, it turns out Latifi wasn't in the sport because of his raw pace and talent, but for his father's bank account. Reportedly, the Canadian was paying up to between $30 million to $50 million per year for his seat. Although it seemed he was actually somewhat of a good driver, considering he was runner-up in the 2019 F2 season with 4 wins and 4 podiums and only 50 points behind De Vries. So for Williams, it didn't seem like a bad deal at all. A relatively good driver who was going to bring in a shitload of cash, or so that's what they thought. 2020 was the year of years, so Latifi had to wait for his debut due to a certain pandemic that stopped racing until the summer. On his debut, he shone in qualifying, coming dead last. Well, I'm glad Formula 1 is based off the race day, so there was an opportunity for Latifi to improve on this. And he certainly did, coming 11th on his debut, nearly scoring points in a Williams in his first race. That's actually quite impressive. But there was a catch. 9 other cars may have crashed out of the race, but as they say, racing is about finishing, and at the end of the day, that's what he delivered. Overall, it was a pretty forgettable season for the Canadian, finishing 21st on 0 points and being out-qualified by George in every single race. But you gotta give a man a chance. It was his rookie season and there's always room for improvement. Now 2021 was definitely a big improvement for him, and he did keep up nicely with George this time around. And with a much improved Williams car, he finished 17th in the standings with 7 points, with only a 9-point gap to George. It was still a landslide on the qualifying side of things, but this time Latifi out-qualified George twice, so once again he made a slight improvement, and a moment that will cement his place in everyone's memories with his championship-changing crash at the last race, which resulted in Verstappen winning the title. He was kept on for 2022 and now had more haters than ever, but he was ready to wipe the floor with his new teammate Alex Albon. Unfortunately, Williams took a bit of a backward step in 2022 and their car was back to being the worst in the field, and this reflected in both drivers' results. In the end, Albon scored 4 points, with Latifi scoring 2, and the result which put the nail in the coffin was when Nick De Vries replaced Albon when he took ill and scored points on his debut at Monza. With great sadness, it was announced in November that Latifi would be replaced by Williams Academy graduate Josh Sargent, and finally the end of his stint as a Formula 1 driver. So that begs the real question, what is next for Latifi after his time in F1? Well, it looks like the 27-year-old has a few options on the table. He has expressed interest in continuing his career in other forms of motorsport, including IndyCar and sports car racing. In fact, Latifi has already had a taste of these types of racing, participating in a few IndyCar and IMSA events in the past. Other former F1 drivers have done the same thing and have found relative success in the sport. These include drivers like Marcus Ericsson and Roman Grosjean. Another possibility for Latifi could be a return to the Formula 2 grid, where he had success in the past, but this would be a step back in his career, while IndyCar would be something new and refreshing, and is still a step back from F1, but not as severe as going back to F2. But it's not out of the question that he could make a comeback to Formula 2. If he was to do either, I'm sure he would do reasonably well, as to be fair, he is definitely a better driver in 2023 than he was in 2020, and if Ericsson can win IndyCar, then I'm sure the GOAT will be competing at the top. I would say there is no doubt that Latifi had some sort of talent as a motorsport driver, but nonetheless he was never really championship winning material. And unfortunately, I think we'll never see him in an F1 race ever again.